Okay, I'm going to talk to the second fear about diving into processing your emotions and potentially doing this on the 6-week release course. So, fear 2, that I will discover things that I don't want to feel or that I don't have the capacity to process. Okay, so this is talking about, I discover that I have this stored emotion in my body that might be manifesting in these bizarre ways, and I don't want these undesirable manifestations. I know it has to do with a stored emotion, but what if that comes to the surface and I don't want to feel it and I don't feel like I've got the capacity to hold it? Now, the thing is that I love to teach people to be able to hold it all. But yes, some people's nervous system just gets so full, their emotional cup gets so full, their nervous system peaks out, and it just goes into overwhelm. Now, there are particular types of constitutions. I like to use Ayurvedic doshas to help people understand this as to how they're going to respond to the emotional work. And that helps me dictate when I'm working with people. I can usually see, and I can see what constitution they are. I can see where they're out of balance. That helps me dictate how I approach this person, whether or not I go all in and they want a bloody exorcism, or they need every detail and I've got to answer every question, or this person is overwhelmed and actually telling them to do more is not the answer. So ideally, we all get to a state where we can take things on board. We can try new things and we don't get ourselves into overwhelm. And also, it's okay if you've gotten to that point. Maybe that is that crisis point where there's still this little glimmer where you can make this decision that I don't like being in this place. Something must be out of balance. Something must be going on. And I want to now work on this. And this is where I'll talk about it in another fear that comes up in relation to my 6-week release course is the timing of like, what if I don't release of what I want to in the 6 weeks? Like, we've got to try and let go of timelines. And at the same time, a 6-week experience is great to open your mind to, oh my gosh, so many things. So what if I discover something that I don't want to feel? You cannot override your nervous system in that sense. And if it doesn't want to feel, it doesn't want to feel. And something I know that I say to a lot of people is don't go for the big and nasty stuff. Some of the big and nasty stuff you know about, some of it you can't really access. But some people think, oh, I've got 6 weeks. I've got this period of time, 6 weeks, 6 months, a year, whatever. That's always my little spiel of the timeline is that I have to do this. Now, if you go for the big stuff and your nervous system doesn't have the capability to hold it, you're not going to end up anywhere quick in 6 weeks, 6 months, a year or longer. And so I talk about that whole hyper focus on an expectation. It takes away the ability to access so many other amazing things that will be part of your journey when you go on the personal development journey or learning to process your emotions. So don't go for the big stuff, because you've also got to build trust in your nervous system and in yourself that you can hold things, that it is okay to feel things. So if I focus on feel and then go into capacity now, the feel part, and the example that I often use is that people often avoid these negative space, normal feelings, states, emotions. So I often just summarize this to anger, depression, sadness, even anxiety. We see them as bad. And I say they're not bad because they're part of your spectrum of states of being and your emotional spectrum. And they're meant to be there. They help us indicate when things don't feel right or when we're putting too much onto our plate. But often we will override these messages that our body is telling us and how it's communicating to us. So then it doesn't trust us. It's like, what the F? I'm trying to tell you something and you're trying to tell me something else. We're not communicating very well here. It's a really interesting relationship between our mind and our body. And the aim is to get them working together. So these negative space, normal emotions, I want to try and decondition you from thinking that they are bad. Yes, they are really unpleasant, and it's not ideal to be in that state of anxiety, anger, depression, sadness all the time. But can you have it for a few hours, a few days, maybe weeks? And I really teach people it's about accepting all. It's about being able to sit with all of the emotions. Even sitting with celebration energy, high energy, good energy can be really challenging for some people. And so you've got to work with all ends of the spectrum, all the pieces in between as well. It gets very boring though if you stay here. It also, when I work with some people who are on medications to stabilize their moods, is they actually feel quite uncomfortable because they can't access the tears, they can't access the sadness. Everything's just flatlined for some people. Okay, so I don't want to feel is I want to teach you how to feel, and that actually if you feel these ways, that everything is okay. And the more I can teach you to feel in and be okay with these sensations with no craving, no aversion, is actually the quicker it will pass. But what's the timeline? I don't know. And that's subjective to what your experience is and how ready you are to dive in and actually experience what it is to feel this. So that's the whole I don't want to feel. Well, this journey is about teaching you how to feel, and nothing is good, nothing is bad. It just is. In terms of, I'm worried that stuff will come up and I don't have the capacity to hold it. This is really interesting because I will work with people one-to-one and I will facilitate a release for them. I will take them to the places that they find difficult. And even then I have to check in and sometimes ask for permission. Do you feel ready to do a release on this event in your life? And there is no set rule that if I am facilitating, I don't want to say the words because I've just been getting blocked on social media, but say there is an event and multiple people can experience this event. Someone might be ready to release that in the first couple of weeks, someone not until the next few months after 12 weeks, the other person not until the middle. So it is for me about reading that person, their constitution, where they're at on their journey, and what is their capacity to be able to hold. Plus, I do like to stretch people a little bit. I don't like to tip people over the edge. I will say that I really get to that edge where most people wouldn't go. But I've often built a relationship with people where I know how far I can push them. They know how their body responds. And actually, once someone learns how to process their emotions, be me facilitating it or them doing it on their own, it's not as if you get tipped over the edge every single time. It's not as if your body has this big reaction every single time, because your body learns to trust that you can hold this as long as you give yourself space and time to be able to process. And that's what puts a lot of people off doing the emotional work, that sometimes they can feel incredibly drained afterwards. And this actually speaks to another fear that this person posed to me that a lot of people have said is, I've still got to function in my day-to-day life. And I'm like, yes, but this isn't going to go on every single time. And that's the discomfort that I like to support people through. Like, keep going. Yes, step back, keep going. And it's going to get easier, because I still do the release work on myself. I still process my emotions, but I can get on with my day straight after. It takes me a few minutes. It's not an issue. And as a result of that, I can also hold a lot of stuff when something unpleasant comes my way. Unpleasant things still come my way. Okay, so one-to-one is a little bit different than a group. And what I say is the really nice thing about a group, because some people are like, I want to do one-to-one with you, but then they're not quite ready, is that in a group, I'm teaching you how to do the release process. I'm teaching you how to process your emotions, and you get to decide whether or not you turn up live to a call or not. And you get to decide whether or not you process an event in your life. So that there is no pressure from me, there is no expectation from me. You get to lead yourself into what you feel safe with. And so some people will start with a group and then they will progress to one-to-one, because then one-to-one is where you start to work on your blind spots. When you're working on yourself, it is hugely beneficial for a lot of people, but you will often bypass the hard stuff because your body's not ready, you don't want to feel or whatever. But there is a lot of stuff that you can get to, and it is about starting with the easy stuff and seeing the little wins in being able to process the small stuff and build yourself up to hold the big stuff. And that is a challenge for me. And it's challenging for people when I can feel they just want to go for the big stuff, but they're skipping all the baby steps, which is ultimately the whole go slow to go fast. Go fast gives you that quick fix, that quick hit of, yes, I'm getting a result, but it falls to pieces eventually. So release is really where I teach people the foundation of processing emotions. And some people continue to get amazing results through the course. Some people come and resit because they need a little zhuzh up with the release energy, some accountability. It is fun to share the releases. It is a place where we share and we speak about the craziest stuff. And that's what I find really interesting. I love that this course, this group is still coming together as different people every single time. But it's to be able to talk about stuff and not have people feel sorry for you. It's like, I've come here because I want to work on this stuff, not for you to feel sorry for me and help me. And so that's why I do this work, help you process your emotions. I am very aware that these are fears for people. And I sit there and go, oh my gosh, like if you can just move past this, I'm here to support you for whatever period of time you're ready to commit to. And if you can get through that first phase of discomfort, that would be amazing. So I talked about a few things where I teach this way more in depth. I talked about the 2 phases masterclass, which you're able to get. I also talked about energetic body splits. I did a masterclass recently called Mind the Gap, which is relevant to this. And then release course is really, right, you resonate with all that work, come and jump in. And it's not about cramming everything of a lifetime into 6 weeks. It is about showing up for what you're available for, what you have capacity to hold as well, because it plays out. I see it every time in a group. There are people that are like all in, then they check out for a few weeks. There are people that stay consistent the whole way. There are some people that just don't show up. And that is your lesson, that is your journey. And I trust that. And then people show up differently if they choose to return for the experience. And if you go in too hard and make yourself feel the things that you don't want to feel, make yourself process what is beyond your nervous system's capacity, your body's capacity, then you will check out and you won't get the most out of the 6 weeks. Okay, so that is speaking to the second fear that was mentioned to me, which I know a lot of people have, is what if stuff comes up that I don't want to feel or that I don't feel I have the capacity to process?